And this is something for anybody who's interested in getting into this. If you are interested in remote viewing and interested in remote viewing weird stuff, get some practice before you do UFO woo-woo stuff, or you're going to get some jump scares and maybe some hitchhiker stuff going on. Energetic protection is important when you're doing this kind of stuff, when you're doing so with remote viewing, time doesn't matter. Like you can remote view Mars a million years ago. You can remote view
a million years from now.
Or a million years from now. You can remote view the magazine that's coming out next month, which I did a few weeks ago. You know, time doesn't matter. Like
spin-off of Skinwalker Ranch. So the episode with Chris Bledsoe, he was sinking his own brain into the data in Delta, and he was calling in these orbs. So, and it was the same type of it was the same type of thing where it was almost like when he was channeling these orbs, because then orbs started appearing, his brain was in what you could only describe as career meditating.
This place that I'm at is unique and not something that I'm going to be able to recreate. Like the feeling that like, no, these aren't the Egyptian pyramids, it wasn't the Great Pyramid, anything like that. I knew it was some kind of different pyramid, but I guess I just didn't have the vocabulary or the knowledge to. But when I connected to that aspect of it, the Tic Tac itself, I didn't get that there was anything alive, like no biologicals present within it. I did get the sense that it was. I think the wording I wrote was that it was like an AI sentient drone.
All right, and we're back to Total Disclosure, the podcast. Today we're here with remote viewer, intuition teacher, musician, Josh Maitland. I'm so happy to have you on, man. It's been a quite a time in the making, but here we are, ready to do it.
Right on. Thanks for having me, dude. I apologize in advance. I got some dogs here that are
we're
barking in the background, but
don't worry, we can't even
hear
mail
delivery or something.
So trust me, I deal with that all the time. Got a dog of my own. He's just not here with me today. So again, I feel the bond. But so it sparked my interest, not just remote viewing from you, but you took remote viewing and you kind of made it. Well, let's not. You don't do like your standard remote viewing. You've taken the process that the government and other entities created, and now you're doing somewhat of like what I think you called it, like Cowboy RV, right? Something to that effect. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. But can you explain, first off, what remote viewing is? Second, what and how you got into the process, and we'll get into how your style is different.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Cowboy is actually its own kind of style of RV. A couple of my buddies actually invented the Cowboy method, as it's called. But yeah, we'll get into that part later. So for those who don't know, remote viewing is a structured methodology for acquiring non-local information. So if and sorry to go right into quantum physics and stuff here right away, but by nature, information, is we can entangle with it through certain faculties that everybody has. So your intuitive operating system, I guess you could call it, which consists of effectively the heart, the brain, and the gut, which is why people say trust your gut, right? And so remote viewing itself is, as you mentioned, it was developed with funding from the U.S. government at SRI International was the laboratory by Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ, Ingo Swann, and a whole bunch of others too. Effectively, they developed this method of tapping into both your intuitive mind and your logical mind at the same time, and leveraging kind of one against the other to get this non-local information. And in any given remote viewing session, you have a target. You're blind to that target. If you're not blind, then it's not considered remote viewing. Just in terms of the protocol that was developed by Ingo and SRI. So remote viewing is actually a very specific subset of psychic ability,
Mhm.
generally speaking. So,
But
but
with that being
it's effective.
said, it is a psychic ability.
Yeah, it's a methodology for leveraging psychic abilities. So,
Mhm.
there's channeling and mediumship and all these other kinds of things that are out there too. And remote viewing, it kind of works on the same operating system as all of these other types of psychic connection.
Right.
Um, but the thing that's unique about it really is the methodology, the process that you go through. So it starts off, you're given a blind target, and once you have that blind target, you're given a number. Essentially, the number represents whatever your target happens to be. So for example, I actually did a session the other day where my target was the cover of a magazine that a buddy of mine works for, and I got all this stuff about plant life and like swamp lands and stuff, and it ended up being this this flower, this orchid flower. So
Oh, no
so it's
way.
yeah, and that was just like a fun session I was doing to kind of trip out my buddy and see if I
That's
could nail the target. So I was like, yeah, it's something about. I think I wrote the word orchard, whereas it's an orchid, but I'm not a plant.
right. But
I'm
so
not a
that's
plant
but
expert or
that's
anything. So
yeah, but it's up to the and that's where I think what the government was doing is I mean, not to say it's a I guess it's more it has more validity to it, right? Than
yeah,
if you weren't blind or if you um if
yeah,
it, because the person from what I understand about remote viewing is the person that's remote viewing, right? There's also an observer or someone giving the target,
yeah.
right?
The tasker,
And
that would be called.
it's up to them to decipher, right? Like if you wrote orchard and it's an orchid, right?
Yeah.
They would be able to put that together and be like, okay, there it is, right? Like that's
Hmm.
their job. That's their part. Your part is just what you did is
Yeah.
get all the information onto the page, and then what
As
you're
the
supposed to give
viewer,
it to
yeah.
someone, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I mean, I'm just like my own guy. So I'm usually tasking myself unless I'm jamming on a project with somebody else. But
Right.
for the most part, if I'm doing little sessions like this one, just for fun and training kind of thing, I'm setting up my own tasking, and so even though I knew I was so I wasn't fully blind on this target because I knew I was trying to remote view the cover of this magazine. But that's called that's what I call anyway categorical front loading. So it's like you're kind of within some kind of ballpark. So it's like saying
It
the
doesn't give you
target
the
is a
full
location.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I mean, the picture on the cover of this magazine could have been literally anything, right? So and
Yeah, there's still an infinite possibility,
mhm,
infinite um you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily give you the answer. So I would
mhm.
say that that's I'd call it a success. I'd say that that would be successful. And I've even talked to you. We're talking about you helping me with the movie that I'm making. And
Yeah,
so I mean, of course, like you're not going to be blind when doing so. So
mhm.
it'll be up to the audience and up to the people who are watching to kind of make that decision for themselves if they believe or not. But
Totally. Yeah,
remote viewing, there is a reason the government funded it, and there's a
yeah.
reason that the government most likely still operates and funds it. So if we can go through a little bit of the history, you mentioned some of the bigger names of remote viewing.
Yeah.
Remote viewing. Why did the government get involved?
So, I mean, this was back in the Cold War era, right? When it all started going down. So I think it was the 70s that SRI really got going
Mhm.
on developing the program, and I think it ran from 1972 to 1995 or 96, something like that. I am not the biggest remote viewing history buff out there. I'm just more of a fan of using it
Hey, don't
and
worry about
playing
it.
with it. But yeah, so I mean, the my understanding from talking to people who know more about the history is that yeah, it was a Cold War thing. The American intelligence was under the impression that Russian intelligence was developing a psychic spy program of their own. So in Cold War fashion, they needed to develop something and make sure that they weren't getting left in the dust. And I think they did have a lot of success with that. The program, if you look through the Stargate archives and all the stuff that was declassified in the 90s, they've got
Yeah.
despite kind of the window dressing that kind of says, oh, it wasn't very successful and that's why we canceled it, like that's not the case if you actually look at what's there and you talk to some of the people who were involved.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it was very successful. They had something, and I'm quoting this from Joe McMoneagle or somebody, I can't remember exactly, but
Love that
I think
guy.
I think they said it was, oh, he's amazing, he's one of the OGs. But
He is the
yeah,
legit,
like,
like he's the real deal.
oh, totally. I actually ran a target that about Mars that was very. I think it was the same tasking that he ran back in. I want to say the
Oh shit.
80s or something. Once,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
it
talked
was.
about that
I
on
didn't. I
Danny
didn't get
Jones.
anything. I didn't get anything new or exciting beyond what others have gotten in the past, and that was a
But
blind
hey,
target
hey,
too.
I want to talk about that. But so
Sure.
I just want to mention this. So the Stargate project, this is from the Wikipedia, so take it obviously with a grain of salt, everybody. Um,
Hmm.
Wikipedia's got its issues. So the Stargate project was a secret U.S. Army unit established in '78 at Fort Meade, Maryland. So
78. There you
literally
go.
right by me. And it was by the DIA, which is the
Yep.
Defense Intelligence Agency, and SRI International, which is a California contractor for anyone who doesn't know. So to investigate the potential psychic phenomena in military and domestic intelligence applications. It ran until 1991 officially. But again, most people say that they've rechristened the Stargate project and that they've brought it back online
Well,
and it never
yeah.
actually went away.
I think what happened is, and this is again just some hearsay that I've come across from various people that are kind of more involved and more in tune
Oh, no.
with the details. But uh, I mean, there's definitely people who did contract work after that, like into the 2000s,
Oh,
on
absolutely.
counterterrorism and things like that. So I think rather than, I mean, maybe they do have a
They probably
program,
just changed
but
the name of the project, honestly.
yeah,
That's how you do that.
I think it's really, there's no official sanctioning of using psychics now, but I think, and I forget where I heard this one, but it's something to the effect that individual agents are able to gather intelligence in ways that are beneficial to them, and if they're going to use this kind of stuff, they're welcome to use it, but it's not an officially sanctioned kind of thing. It's not done by government staff, I guess you would say. It would all be done through contractors, presumably. I have
Right.
not done any government work.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
But let's so let's talk about some of the so I mean there's been so many stories told like on like even when like Joe McMoneagle, I think he was just on like Danny Jones or um uh the other one, Julian Dory. I don't remember which one. I think it was Danny Jones though. And I mean what they were talking about, I mean, is a program that almost had it was like 99% of a success rate. So I just don't, and I was wrong. It ended actually in 95 officially.
Yeah, that's
They
what I thought. Yeah.
renamed it in 91 Stargate Project.
Yeah.
So
There
That
was
it
a few different
definitely,
names. Yeah, there's Grill
yeah.
Flame, I think was another one.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Um,
mean, the as far as the success rate, like that, that's what I was. That's why I initially brought up Joe. I think it was him or one of the other Skip Atwater or somebody who said that they had an 80%
Psychic
return
Headhunter.
customer rate. So
Yeah.
if you got 80% return customer rate, like you're doing something right. Like
Ab-
you don't
Yeah.
get that kind of and that doesn't mean that the hit rate is 80%. The thing with remote viewing is like even the pros are kind of, at least when it comes to sort of binary choice type yes or no stuff. For example, gambling on sports and things like that.
Yep.
You'll hit like, say, if you're hitting 60% consistently, you're doing good. And then for
Right.
targets where you're really just trying to get data about something, the 80% reasonable, I think, for people who are, as in 80% of the data you pull down. If you're good at this, it's going to be
You know what?
relevant data.
You know what? You just made a really good. All right. I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna. And I think it's because you can take it.
I can take all kinds of things.
If if you brought up the lottery,
Hmm.
if there was something to this, legitimately, again, you know, I I'm not I'm not here to decide if it's real or not. I have my belief, right? I always let the audience determine what they believe. I'm here
100%.
to just facilitate the question.
Yeah.
Why isn't every psychic rich?
Hmm.
You talked
Yeah.
about sports gambling, gambling in general. Why
Yeah.
isn't,
Yeah.
if that's the case, why isn't every single person with these abilities winning jackpot lotteries?
Well, there's a few theories on that, and believe me, I have tried it myself. And something we all run up against when we try to do the lottery is this weird phenomena where, say I'm doing a pick three and the winning numbers are 3, 4, 5. Um, I'll get numbers. I'll get like 3, 4, 6, or I'll get like 3, 3, 6, or it'll just be off by one, or all of them will be off by exactly two, or some weird stuff like that where it's
Right.
like, yeah, you're on the right track, but no, you're not getting this money. Like it's so weird, and there's a lot of
Could it
theories
be?
around that as to whether. So theory number one is that it's a limiting belief on the part of the viewer, where they just don't believe that they can actually win the lottery. And for small amounts, like people have won small amounts all over the place. I know lots of them. I've hit the pick three once or twice. Usually when I don't actually buy a ticket, which again
Ironically.
goes back to this weirdness,
Ironically.
right?
Yeah.
And I can send you some stuff. You can flash it on the screen. Some of my hits where it's like my ticket and then the winning numbers from that date. I've
Hell yeah.
recorded it
Hell
all.
yeah.
I get like I get 2 out of 3 on the pick three more often than I don't. It's bizarre. Um, as far as bigger lotteries, uh, it almost seems to be like an aspect of fate. Like if you're not meant to win millions of dollars, you're probably not going to. And I think that may
Oh,
just be like a life
I
path
can
kind of
hate
thing.
it.
Like for example, one of my buddies, Daz Smith, he's a great remote viewer and like world class. And he always says, if I won millions and millions of dollars, I'd never remote view again. I'd just be off on a beach somewhere drinking margaritas or whatever. So,
So
and
could that,
maybe he's meant to do more than that. I suspect he is.
I was
and
gonna
and
say,
so goes anybody else, right?
could it be that that phenomena is not allowing it to be done for selfish reasons? I mean,
Yeah,
if
it,
we're
it's
going,
it's
if
quite
I mean, if we're
possible.
going down that line, we're crossing it anyway.
Hmm.
So there's no, you know what I mean? If this is real, then there, what's to say w- uh, uh, what makes sense or not, right?
Yeah,
Because if remote viewing's all 100% legit, right? We're down the rabbit hole at that point. And I
yeah,
think it is. I think it is legit. I think there are people. I've had people like Kim Rhodes on the show. Another psychic. I've interviewed mediums, psychics, and I mean, there's there's something there. I know it. I know it.
there are some, maybe we should talk about that, like the implications, right? Like, so with remote viewing, time doesn't matter. Like you can remote view Mars a million years ago. You can remote
Or a
view,
million years from now.
or a million years from now. You can remote
Right.
view the magazine that's coming out next month, which I did a few weeks ago. Time doesn't matter. Like it we get, this is what remote viewing has kind of done to me, is it's forced me to sort of look down other rabbit holes about, some of the really deep spiritual concepts and stuff, like this idea that there is no time, there is only the eternal now, which is this ever unfolding fractal hologram or whatever. Or
Right.
the kind of similar idea of unity consciousness, that everything is connected. And I when you look at how remote viewing works, and I mean, I believe it works. Again, I'm not trying to convince anybody either. It's really the best way to convince yourself one way or the other is to try it, and I would recommend to anybody, if you're skeptical, give it a go, and then see where you land.
Yeah, and there's
But
places
yeah,
like the Monroe Institute you can go to and
yeah,
learn
yeah.
it.
And I've done a lot of the Monroe meditations. They're great. Like the Monroe meditations kind of center around binaural beats, and like I'm a record producer. I know lots of
So, like,
lots
what,
of tricks about
syncing your
audio.
brain?
Yeah, so
Hemi-syncing?
hemi-syncing is really just taking uh, a dominant frequency on one side of the stereo spectrum and another one on the other side, and shifting them by a certain number of hertz, which is the
Okay.
measurement for frequency.
Yeah.
So say I've got 100 hertz over here and 106 hertz over here. My brain is going to correct that difference and synchronize to a 6 hertz, uh, which is a theta brainwave state, which is super effective. And because
You
remote viewing and psychic stuff all seems to work in those sort of lower bandwidth, or rather lower frequency brainwave states. So the states are delta, which is when you're kind of in a deep sleep. And now I got somebody at the door.
battery! The Terrible's Biomind! Introducing the ultimate cognitive enhancement solution, Biomind. Today's video is exclusively brought to you by our sponsor, Adentia Herbals. Unlock your brain's full potential with a powerful blend of 9 meticulously selected plants and mushrooms, each backed by peer-reviewed research for their cognitive boosting benefits and safety. Adentia Herbals formula combines organic full-spectrum powders and potent standardized extracts, ensuring that you receive the optimal concentration of each ingredient's cognitive enhancing compound, carefully selecting the most desirable parts of each plant and mushroom to create a harmonious blend that supports your mental clarity and focus. But that's not all. They infuse each bottle with personal intention of improving the lives, the minds, and overall greatness of each of their customers. Because of their commitment to your well-being every step of the way, you're going to get an exclusive 25% off your order via www.adentiaherbals.com using our code Total Disclosure at checkout. All the links will be in the description or on the screen. All right, we're back.
Right on.
So thank you. So what we were getting into is, geez, God, I lost my train of thought.
Deep esoteric
Oh,
meanings.
hemi-syncing. Yeah, hemi-syncing. So the brain
Hemisync, yeah.
correcting for the hertz.
Yeah, so there's some research out there about this. Institute of Noetic Sciences has done a lot of interesting stuff, and of course Monroe, as you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I saw this thing a little while back where that TV psychic Tyler Henry, I think is his name.
Yes. Yeah,
So
he's everywhere lately.
he crushes it, man. He's the real
Yeah.
deal. I'm pretty sure. But I watched a show with him and Steve-O from Jackass, and they did a brainwave measurement both on Tyler and Steve-O, on the
Really?
show while he was doing the reading. And what they found was that when Tyler was doing the reading, he was down in the delta range, which is about four to 8 hertz, I think. And then he was kind of spiking in delta and theta, which is these lower brainwave states where most people, if you're syncing yourself to delta, you're gonna fall asleep. Like it's theta, the one above delta is sort of where you're at when you're in a deep transcendental meditation. So
And
delta's even lower. That's like deep
and
sleep level.
and if I'm not mistaken, if you remember on the show, it's the spin-off of Skinwalker Ranch. So the episode with Chris Bledsoe, he was syncing his own brain into the data in Delta, and
Yeah.
he was calling in these orbs. So, and it was
Oh, I
the
haven't seen that one.
same type of, yeah, it was the same type of thing where
Makes sense though.
it was almost like when he was channeling these orbs, because then orbs started appearing, his brain was in what you could only describe as like a career meditator.
Yeah.
Like his brain was so off
Delta with gamma
like
spikes
yeah,
probably.
so low.
Yeah.
You understand that a little bit better than I do, but exactly what you're saying. So not only does it see that we can see things past or in the eternal now, whatever that is, but we could also use it to connect with the phenomenon or
Yeah.
what is in our skies.
I could see that. I mean, like I've had a few experiences with orbs and things. I don't think orbs are craft necessarily. At least the ones
Okay.
I've encountered have felt more like almost spirit entities probably than anything that's particularly alien, I guess, to use that word.
Right.
I've heard from other people that think that they're like portals, and
Mhm.
I've seen some pictures of orbs where you see little faces in them and stuff, like almost like it's like a looking glass, like to another dimension, and something's checking you out. I mean, anytime I have seen orbs, though, I have been likely in a state that is either delta theta kind of thing, because the times that it's happened, the first one was before I knew anything about remote viewing or psychic stuff. But I've been a musician since I was a kid, and the first time I encountered orbs was when I was out in the woods for a week recording music with my band. We were doing like a solar powered recording session on an island somewhere, and we'd actually written this song that we dedicated to the spirit of the lake, which we called Bill Tilden because it was Tilden Lake. And like the family whose cottage it was, like they're like, yeah, we Bill Tilden, he's the spirit of the lake. It's like, all right, cool. So so we wrote
Wow.
this song
Yeah.
about Bill Tilden
It's a good title.
and nature, and yeah, it was just called the Ballad of Bill Tilden. But this is a crazy story. So we ended up recording this song all day long, and as we were getting into it, there was this thunderstorm just on the other side of the lake, and
Ooh.
like deep black clouds, crazy lightning, everything. But we were recording on solar power, so if that had come over us, we would have been toast, right? But it didn't. It just kind of held off on this other side of the lake and blasted away as we were recording. So we ended up finishing the song, and there was some other weird stuff. Like we didn't have any lyrics, so one guy just went off in the woods, came back with like fully written lyrics. Just kind of sat on a stump somewhere, and it came to him, I guess. And then he handed those lyrics off to me, and without ever having seen the lyrics, I just put it up in front of myself, stood in front of the mic, and sang the song. And I think we
And
kept
it just came out.
it was good from just it was a channeled thing. And again, before I knew anything about channeling, but
Wow.
at this point, I'm pretty certain that any songwriting process is channeling, and really
All the greats
any
say
artistic
it.
process. Yeah, like it's every
Dude,
good song comes to
every
you in 5 minutes, right? Like,
how many geniuses, this goes for musicians, this goes for, let's just say, geniuses in any field. How many times have they said they're channeling it from somewhere else? It's not
yeah,
that it's almost coming through them. It's
yeah.
it's from
You get in,
something
you
else
get into
through
flow
them.
state. You get into flow
Flow
state,
state.
and
Yeah,
that opens the
exactly.
gate. It opens the heart
Einstein
gate.
literally came up with the theory of relativity by doing thought experiments. He had
Mhm.
no lab,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Like,
Yeah,
like it's fucking crazy
yeah.
that a man was able to put himself in. A man was able to envision himself at the near the speed of light, right? Just traveling through the universe. What does that sound like to you?
That sounds like astral projection.
Right. That's exactly what
non
it sounds like.
non-local non-local non-physical experience. Yeah, that's and yeah, like Einstein, I've seen some
Tesla
good
said it
quotes
too.
from him about, like, he was into all this stuff. Like he was a believer in the non-physical. And I mean he basically helped invent the current understanding of quantum physics, right? Like
Right.
he was deeply involved in that. And yeah, no question there.
Well,
I mean,
let's
just
talk.
back to that story though. Um,
Oh my
and-
God, we didn't even finish that. I'm so
no,
sorry.
no, there was more. So we channeled this
There was
song out.
more.
We went to play it back. It's like, oh, that was a good take, that one shot that I did. Let's give it a listen. And as soon as I said that, all the lights went out, and we were out of power. The storm had moved over. It was over top of us now. So it was like, okay, well, we got battery backup. Let's save this thing and shut it down, and call it a day. So we did. I stuck around for a few more minutes after the other guys had kind of gone up to the bunkies to sleep, which is about kind of 300 meters away maybe from the main cabin. And after I got everything shut down, I went outside, and it was absolute pitch blackness, like Northern Ontario darkness, like not a star, nothing. You couldn't see your hand in front of you. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to find my way to the bunkie in the dark, because I didn't have a flashlight or anything. I didn't even have a cell phone back when this happened, because it was so long ago. But so I just started kind of wandering, and I saw these little blue lights, and I was like, oh, they put some trail lights in. Okay, well, that's handy. So I followed the blue lights and made my way to the bunkie. And my buddy Colin was there, and I said, hey man, when did you put those lights in? And he said, we don't have any lights. So I was like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. Oh
He's
well,
like, what lights are you talking about,
didn't
dude? What are
think
you
much of it.
smoking?
So I just went to bed, right? And the storm had kind of subsided, but there's just all the clouds. And maybe an hour or two later, we wake up to this like machine level rain on the steel roof of the bunkie. And I sit bolt upright. The song from earlier in that day is playing in my head. I hear it clearly, and I say, hey Colin, do you hear the song in your head right now? And he's like, yep. So that was kind of
Wait,
weird. So we're
what?
like, and I was just like, we got to go outside. I just felt really compelled to go outside. So we did. And we looked out into the darkness of the woods, and the rain was coming down, the thunder was crashing. And I'm seeing all these little blue lights again, like in the forest, just kind of blinking in and out of existence, little orbs. And so we're listening to this song in our head, and we're hearing this thunder and seeing the lightning, and we realize that the lightning is crashing in the same like tempo as the song. And it was a weird song. It was like 7/11 or 8/11 time. It was weird kind of prog rock song. So we're tapping away, and like whenever the one comes around, boom, lightning for like 45 minutes. It was crazy. And we weren't on drugs. We smoke weed and stuff, but like that day we were working, so we weren't doing anything like that. So yeah, just
Too
wild,
bad
wild night.
back then you didn't have a camera.
Yeah, yeah. It would
Although
have
we
been
wouldn't
cool
be
to
able to hear
capture.
the music,
Yeah,
you
true,
could
true.
overlay it and be like, dude, it's doing it to the
Yeah,
same tempo.
yeah. So
And
that was my first experience with orbs, and I think it really was in part that we had like kind of made this offering to the spirit of the place. And at the time, it really felt like it was like a nature spirit kind of experience, like not any kind of alien UFO stuff. And I've since tried, and this is now maybe 2 years ago. I've attempted CE5 and stuff like that, and I've
Yeah.
gotten orbs. I had an orb show up in my room at 3 a.m. and
In
I
your
tried.
room?
Yeah, it was trippy. It was a little orange one. I woke up bolt upright 3 a.m. and it's like just hovering, and it kind of went by my head and out the window and sort of disappeared as I was watching it, and I was just like, whoa.
And
um
it was an orb. It wasn't like
Orange.
a dispersion blur?
No, it was like this orange orb, and it sort of faded out as it went past my head and out the window.
Huh.
And it came back, I think maybe the next night or 2 nights later. And again, like this was a time I wasn't doing a ton of music, but I was doing tons of remote viewing, lots of Monroe meditations, like gateway stuff. So I was getting myself into those deep theta and delta states on the regular. And I think that's where you got to be. You got to be in that kind of liminal state to see some of this stuff. And I do think it is a largely consciousness-based phenomena, at least almost. I mean, I think everything is consciousness. Personally, that's sort of
But
where my
yeah,
journey has led me. Um, I forget what the name for that belief system is. It's like oh, it's got a there's a term for it, but it's escaping me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Labels are stupid
yeah.
anyway.
I know what you
Um,
mean though. I know what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. It's it'll come back to me
'Cause
eventually.
I believe in something similar. And
Yeah, yeah. It's
'cause
it's the unity consciousness thing, right? So,
yeah. I mean,
but
and
but
look at what we just, you know what I mean? Look at our universe. Look at our, like, with the, like, some of the pictures that the web's getting. If,
yeah,
like, and then you look at the universe on a macro scale, and then you look at the universe on a micro scale, and you know what? They look fucking the
there's
same.
correlation. Yeah,
They
big
look
time.
the same.
Hmm.
So it's like, is everything like, and we just proved that that trees, plants, they talk to each other.
Hmm.
So how does that happen? How does that happen in a world? Well, you know how it happens? Everything is entangled. That's
Yeah,
how it happens.
yeah, and it's
So
because I think because it's entangled because it is just one thing fundamentally. It's
having different
all the same
experiences.
consciousness. Yeah, it's one consciousness having an infinite number of experiences. So like, this pen has consciousness. Like I've gone and meditated on rocks and been like, okay, like what's this rock feel like? What's it feel like to be a rock?
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
and then suddenly I just feel this like emotional energetic thing where like everything slows down, and it's a really unique kind of experience. But and so, I mean, I project into animals and stuff. Like I saw a bat one time when I was walking on the trail, and I was like, oh, what would it be like to be that bat? And I started to, that's the other thing. If you're going on walks regularly, that's a great psychic exercise, because
I do.
the locomotion and the exercise are gonna put you into at least an alpha, if not theta, as you're going, and you're gonna be
Mhm.
receptive to stuff. But walking meditations are great. Highly recommend.
So
Uh,
walking meditation being that, because for me, it's very hard to quiet my brain.
mhm.
So if I was walking, how would I meditate at the same time? If that
Well,
makes sense.
I tend to think that the traditional advice of meditation, to quiet your brain and shut things out, I think that's
Mhm.
bullshit personally.
Oh, please
um,
do say, tell more.
yeah, we'll get controversial here, but what remote viewing is like an active meditation. Like it's the whole process relies on um, working with your thoughts and impressions. And the tricky bit is separating the noise and the signal. So with remote viewing specifically, you're going after a target, right? Like you're going after specific information about a specific thing that's correlated to your target reference number or whatever at the start of your remote viewing process. And with a walking meditation, you can kind of do that same sort of active meditation. Like you're as you're walking, you let the thoughts flow through. It's not such a matter of you want to stop them. It's you want to acknowledge them and let them move on, which I think the more seasoned meditators would kind of tell you. But in remote viewing, what you're doing is actually writing down all those impressions, but you're trying to
Right.
categorize them. So say you get an image. We'll use the flower again as an example. I get this feeling of like actually the thing that came up first for me in that session was a place called Flower Pot Island. That was the very first impression I had on that session. And Flower Pot Island is an island in the county where this orchid was found, and it's has to do with flowers. So this is it. Like your subconscious will throw you these thoughts, but your goal as a remote viewer is to decode what the subconscious is giving you, and there's different ways to do that. So like in stage one of remote viewing, you're drawing a little ideogram. It's almost like an automatic drawing that do to really just to connect to the target. It's like your dial up to the cosmic internet. I sometimes explain it as. And so after that ideogram, you kind of just probe the ideogram, and you kind of sit and you wait, and you observe your own thoughts, and you see what comes up. And so generally those first few things that come up, that bubble up from your subconscious, are going to have some usually strong correlation to what your actual target is, especially if you've been
So
doing
your
this.
initial thoughts are important.
It's important to grab that initial thought, and
Okay.
if it comes through as something you can name, you're supposed to write that off to the side, because often it's not going to be right on. So example, Flower Pot Island, that's not
Right.
that's not what the target was, but
But
it
it
had a lot of elements of the target contained within that idea.
mm,
So what you're then supposed to do after the ideogram is to go to your senses. It's like, what do I see? What colors do I see? That's usually what I start with, because I'm kind of a visual guy, and then I'll go to audio. Like, what do I hear? And you jot down those sounds and colors and smells, tastes,
I was gonna say
emotion. Emotions are a big one too.
I I was gonna say, would it be uncommon for you to have smelled flowers?
I did not actually cue myself on that target to do the smell step. So
But
if you're doing full
would it be
structure, I should have.
uncommon?
I probably should have. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be uncommon if you're following proper structure, like the way it was designed by SRI. You're supposed to go through all the senses, and
Okay.
this was just a funsy session, so I was
Yeah, I
like,
know. Yeah,
I
I
was
totally make
freestyling
sense.
a bit, jamming,
Yeah,
and
you're tuning yourself.
I didn't bother with smell. I probably should have, because I probably would have gotten flower smells or something.
Right.
I did get like the sense of like wet earth, and these grow in a
Swamp,
swamp, so
like you said,
maybe it's a good thing I
swampland.
didn't do smells. But I would have got swamp smells instead of flowers. But
Right, right.
it's yeah, so it's you go through your sensory stuff, and then you kind of draw. Stage three is drawing kind of the key elements that you've kind of pulled out. So as you're doing these sensory stuff, so like maybe I would get I got agriculture. I got this feeling of like agricultural plant life, something. So
Mhm.
I just wrote that down as a thing.
Okay.
And then on other sessions, you would kind of go, once you do your stage three, then you kind of figure out, okay, this has three different core elements to it. One of them is plant life. One of them is like a location that feels like, maybe a forest. And then the other element is that there's life. And the life ended up just being, often it's kind of funny when I'm doing a target that's a photograph. I'll get a sense of like a person, but the person doesn't actually show up in the feedback. So typically I attribute that to the photographer, because if I'm doing a target that's a photo, what I believe you're doing, and there's debate about this, and really no way to prove it, at least not yet. A lot of people think that you are actually going out of the body to the target and picking up that information. The other way of looking at that is you're going within yourself, and because within you the universe is folded, you're projecting inwards to that element of yourself that is the target, because everything is everything else, unity consciousness, all that stuff. um Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit there. um
Sorry.
we were
Everything is
talking,
unity consciousness.
yeah, so in the context of remote viewing, um
So
yeah,
okay, I'll
you
trust
pick up all kinds of different stuff, and those initial impressions are important, and the whole process is really just it's like a puzzle that you're trying to put together. You know, your initial ideogram is like a zip file of the target that you've downloaded, and the whole remote viewing
That's a
session
good
is like just pulling files out of that zip and piecing them
that's a
together
good
into a cohesive image.
that's a good visualization, by the way. You should,
Thanks.
if you ever need to visualize, use that because that was really good.
I think I
Because
use that
it's
one
a
in my
zip
course.
file, and then you're pulling what you need out of it
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
go. It's a
And
very
you
so
do that by just letting those impressions come to you, and by cueing yourself. It's all it's and this goes for all forms of magic. It's attention plus intention. It's like what you focus on and what your intention is with what you're focusing on. So if you're focusing within and you're focusing on, all right, I want my subconscious to go to the target and get target information. I want my subconscious to move 50 feet above the target and look down. I want my subconscious to tell me what I smell at this target. So you cue yourself with these little triggers, and that's how you end up getting good data. That's kind of what separates the good remote viewers from the not as good remote viewers, is the people who really know how to cue their stuff and get their subconscious, um, you know, to dance around the target and find all the different bits and pieces. So
okay, so the let's call this the government. We'll call it the government process.
sure.
So you just kind of went through the government process, right? Um, Now, how does that differ from what you guys are doing or with what your friends invented with Cowboy?
Yeah.
How is it different than the not like the SRI program, the Monroe stuff?
Yeah, so it's the difference is there's no prescribed structure. It's just freestyle psychic connection, which is, you know, what a lot of psychics do. Like, and I see psychics as very similar to musicians, in the sense that every psychic, every remote viewer has their own kind of style, just like every bass player or guitar player or whatever, right? Or singer. You know, you've got your own artistic style, you've got your own preferences, you know what works for you. You know, maybe you prefer jazz versus hip hop or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Psychic stuff is very similar. Like the corollaries between music and psychic ability are like, I just did a whole show on that the other day with somebody, so I could talk about that for way too long. But yeah, the gist of Cowboy is like, it's you just kind of connect to the target and you let those impressions come through and you trust them. The thing is, to do a Cowboy session, you're not going to do very well if you haven't done you know the structured remote viewing a bunch, because the structure exists for a reason. They developed that structure because it works, and they used it for many years because it works, and it's incredibly useful for training your intuition. um, I consider remote viewing to almost be like a gym for intuition. You follow that structure and you work on your ability to parse this data from, you know, what's just crap that I'm projecting onto the target from my own inner stuff, and what's the actual target. Like, because it's all interpreted by your subconscious mind. It's
Right.
you know, it's and again, this goes back to that idea that, you know, each psychic is, you know, has their own style like a musician, because we all know different stuff, we've all learned different things, we've all had different experiences in life, and when you are pulling in this psychic information, it's you're filtering it through your own lens, and the stuff that you're going to jot down is going to be unique to you. So if you've got three remote viewers running the same target, they're all going to interpret it differently. And there's some weird stuff that happens with groups, actually, where often when you have a group of, say, three people doing a single target, each of those three people is going to get like three different elements, and then when you put them together, that's when you get the whole picture. So there's some weird stuff that
Mm.
happens when you work with other people too, but it's kind of more effective that way.
That was
In
actually
some
gonna be
ways.
one of my questions is, can a group of remote viewers work together? And
100%.
let's say let's say I let I want to use your example earlier of Mars. What did you see? Eventually I want to get there, but start can remote viewers work together?
Yeah, totally. There's lots of groups that work together on targets. There's one really cool one called the Future Forecasting Group. I just did a show with them a couple days ago. They're world class. Like they do like news predictions and crypto and all
No
kinds of stuff like that.
freaking way.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Like they nail it. Like they get a lot of correct results, a lot of hits. But I mean, even back in the Stargate program, like they had a team of remote viewers, and the team would work on,
That's
like, I mean,
true.
sometimes you do solo targets, but I think they work together a lot too. Certainly on operational targets, as they're called. Um, and I mean, I mostly do solo stuff just because I don't know a lot
There's
of remote viewers. I know a lot of them online, but
there was a lot of speculation, and I'm just gonna throw this story in here.
sure.
There was a lot of speculation that they use remote viewing to find Osama bin Laden.
Hmm. I
A
mean, you
lot.
could do that. I don't see.
A
There's no reason you
lot.
couldn't do that.
Yeah. A lot of speculation about it,
Yeah.
that it was done it was done, um, as like a last ditch effort,
Mm.
almost. But we won't I don't wanna talk about that. You talked about how you remote viewed Mars,
Yeah.
and you had a similar target to what Joe McMoneagle did. Can you explain that whole thing? Because
Yeah.
I'm super fascinated with Mars.
He did a session back in the 80s or something where he remote viewed Mars and got these beings and this civilization. It was like, I think it was the Cydonia region of Mars specifically,
Cydonia, exactly. Yeah.
and there's pyramids and stuff, and I got kind of all the same stuff, and again,
What did it look like? Did it look?
I
Because a
I
lot of
wrote.
people say it's not red.
Well, the impression that I got and wrote down was Sedona, Arizona, which rhymes with Cydonia, and
Oh,
it
so
was,
fucking
and there's the
easy.
redness, and I did get, like, not like red, but like kind of again, like Arizona desert kind of
Yeah, but that's more like a
feeling and visual.
tan.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't like pure red. I don't know if I have the session handy. I probably don't, but it's just, again, this is from memory, but
I really want to
I did
know.
get a being. I did see this. It almost looked like a gray, but it
Oh,
was more
fucking
white skinned, and the eyes weren't like the black eyes. It was like more human like eyes, and I kind of got the feeling that it was kind of aware that I was looking at it. Not in like a spooky weird way or anything, just kind of like, oh, hey, what's going on? And like, check this out, because there was something going on at the site that was like,
oh no.
again, I didn't have a great breakthrough on this, but there was this feeling of like watching this like once in a lifetime occurrence or something. And it was, there was like a big light over top of a pyramid, which I drew. And
Good
again, like, I had
agent.
no, I had no idea what I was actually looking at this time. I thought I was still like in Arizona somewhere, or not. I didn't think I was there, but that was the feel. Like, it wasn't, to me. I wasn't like, oh, I'm in space. I'm on Mars right now. Like, it didn't feel anything completely out of the ordinary, other than the fact that it was like this feeling of like, wow, this is really unique. This place that I'm at is unique, and not something that I'm going to be able to recreate, elsewhere or otherwise. With, I can't go to Mars a million years ago physically, so maybe that's all it was. But yeah, it was an interesting target, and yeah, the pyramid stuff came through pretty clearly. I did get like the feeling that, like, no, these aren't like the Egyptian pyramids. It wasn't the Great Pyramid, anything like that. I was pretty. I knew it was some kind of different pyramid, but I guess I just didn't have the vocabulary or the knowledge to break through on that one and be like, oh yeah, it's Mars. Because I didn't even realize I was doing like a woo-woo outer space target. It was just something I pulled out of my blind target pool that I had set up for myself. And I do have some weird ones in there because I like checking that kind of stuff out because it's interesting. But yeah, I had a much better session on the Tic Tac than I did on Mars.
Yeah, so let's
Failed the Tic Tac.
the one to wrap up on was your session with the Tic Tac, because not only is it so spot on, but I have a close relationship with Kevin Day, PJ Hughes, and a couple other guys from the Nimitz. All right, I don't have it handy. I'm going to do it in editing.
Yeah, sure. Actually,
So start. So why did was the Nimitz part of this blind pool you set up for yourself?
yeah. So I have a few kind of classic cases in there. Not all of them have come up yet. And
Phoenix Lights, stuff like that. Yeah.
I've done the Phoenix Lights too. That was another interesting one that I was tasked on. I was tasked on that one probably too early in my remote viewing career. And this is something for anybody who's interested in getting into this. If you are interested in remote viewing and interested in remote viewing weird stuff, get some practice before you do UFO woo-woo stuff, or you're going to get some jump scares and maybe some hitchhiker stuff going on. Energetic protection is important when you're doing this kind of stuff, when you're doing targets that are potentially unsafe in the sense that it's like you don't know what it is, or it could be weird stuff, or it could be scary stuff.
Stuff that knows that you're there.
Yeah. I'm good with it. Like I grew up in a house on a street that was haunted as hell, and like I had ghosts jumping out at me in the middle of the night when I was a kid all the time. My brother did too. We slept in the basement, and our street was had a church on it, which in Canada means it was stolen indigenous land. And there's probably some restless spirits under the ground there where we were sleeping that wanted to mess with us or were mad or whatever. But I've had lots of stuff like that in my history, and so I was open to that kind of stuff, and it didn't really freak me out that much. But if you're coming in fresh to this, like, do basic targets, like photo targets, like predict the news for your local paper, stuff like that. Like that is kind of repeatable.
So don't jump into Phoenix Lights.
No, don't dive into the woo right away.
Okay. Lesson. All right. I like that.
It's like, so the analogy I would use is like, you're not going to try and bench press 300 pounds your first day in the gym, right?
Gotcha.
Like you're gonna work your way up to that kind of
great
stuff.
Visualization again.
Yeah.
Great visualization.
Yeah. So with the Tic Tac, I got all kinds of fun stuff.